Asparagus. If you're a longtime pasta grammarian, you probably are expecting this to be one of those instances where asparagus is a vegetable that I don't really like and Ava's gonna try to change my mind. That is not the case today. I actually very much like asparagus. I've always liked it, so Ava doesn't need to change my mind about that, but I do have kind of a problem with asparagus.
The pee apple?
No, not the smell of never mind. My problem with asparagus is that I'm getting a little bored with it. I think maybe I've, in fact, only eaten asparagus cooked very simply with like some olive oil, some salt, some pepper, either in a pan on the stove or, you know, kind of roasted in the oven. I even searched how to cook asparagus, and like 90% of the results were all just how to make this really basic asparagus recipe that everyone cooks and eats and every restaurant serves. Now, there's nothing wrong with that dish. As I said, I like asparagus and it's the only way I've eaten asparagus, so it's a good dish. But I want to spice things up a little bit. I want to learn some new ways to cook asparagus.
In Italy, we cook asparagi in so many ways, and I'm pretty sure that I can find a way in which you never had them before. The first dish that I'm going to cook, Harper, is a baked dish. And you are used to baked asparagi. But in this case, I will put an Italian touch on it. This recipe is a very old recipe and it comes from this book. It is the masterpiece of Pellegrino Artusi.
For those people who maybe haven't seen our whole video all about Pellegrino Artusi, could you briefly explain who he is?
Pellegrino Artusi, we can define him as the father of the Italian food, because this book was the first Italian recipe book that it was published.
I thought you said this was going to be a baked dish.
It will be baked up. After about 3-4 minutes that our asparagi will be boiling, we are going to transfer them in cold water with ice so we can stop them for overcooking completely. What I'm going to do now is making a sort of asparagus lasagna, which means I will place my asparagus in a layer, and I'm starting with some butter and cheese.
I probably should have guessed that the Italian touch was Parmigiano Reggiano.
What can I say? Yes, or Parmigiano or Pecorino. For the final layer, I'm going to make a layer of Parmigiano and breadcrumb. Harper, we can bake them.
Now, I've never had a bad Artusi recipe. I've had some weird ones, Never had a bad one.
Look, this is amazing because asparagus are good, Parmigiana is good, butter is good, breadcrumb is good. There is nothing
All
strange.
good things.
All the good things all together.
Is this a recipe that is still cooked today, or is this one of those artusi recipes that's now kind of lost and forgotten?
No, absolutely. It's like one of the way in which we cook asparagus like that. Maybe someone doesn't add the breadcrumb, someone has the breadcrumb and maybe substitute the Parmigiano with the pecorino, but more or less the style is this.
Does it have a name?
In the book of Artusi, actually, he doesn't mention, he doesn't give a name to this dish. Nowadays, there are people who call this Asparagi alla Parmigiana because they are full of Parmigiano. I will stick with Artusi. That
It doesn't give it a name.
No.
The nameless asparagus dish. Buon appetito.
Buon appetito.
You were right when you said all good things on this plate.
It's like they can't be bad. If you like asparagus and you like butter and you like cheese and you like breadcrumb, they can't be bad.
This is my first cheesy asparagus. As it turns out, cheese goes really well with asparagus. I would go so far as to say that it improves the natural taste of the asparagus.
Every time that you cook a dish from his book, it never disappoints.
He knew what he was doing. Actually, I shouldn't really say that because he was more collecting traditional recipes than creating them himself.
He knew what he was doing when he was going around eating good food.
Well, you have succeeded in a few respects. First of all, this is the best asparagus dish I've ever had in my life. You've shown me something new because I've never had cheesy, breadcrumby asparagus, and it's amazing. However, I have one little problem with this. Do you remember how I said when I was looking at asparagus recipes, like 90% of them were just olive oil, salt and pepper, cooked in a pan? Well, that other 10% was people who use cheese. Is there something even a little bit more different out there? Why are you cooking the stems first and leaving these?
Because they are very, very tender, so they take like 1-2 minutes to be done. This takes a little bit longer. I'm going to make a frittata this time with the asparagi, but this is not a normal frittata. We can say that it's an unusual frittata because I'm going to use some stale bread.
Stale bread.
Stale bread. Old
You
bread.
could steal the stale bread.
Old bread. The bread that isn't fresh anymore. That it takes 2 or 3 days.
Well, this is definitely new for me. I've never had an asparagus almost said omelette. I'm so sorry. Frittata.
This is frittata di asparagi Apulian style.
Apulian style.
Yes, how they do in Puglia. The only thing is that the original one in Puglia uses the wild asparagi.
Not only is this my first asparagus frittata, it's also the first frittata I've ever seen incorporate bread into it.
Because this Harper actually, when they cook this kind of dish, was like a meal for them.
Yeah, you got the bread and the cheese.
You got the bread,
and
the
eggs,
cheese,
the
the egg,
vegetables.
vegetables. So actually, you have a piece of this, and you should be okay at least for 2 or 3 hours.
Buon appetito. Okay.
The frittata by itself is amazing, but then when you put the bread, you elevate the frittata to another level.
Wow, yeah. That gives it quite a different texture. It's really good. But let's not forget the asparagus, which, as I learned from the last dish, goes amazingly well with cheesy flavors, and this definitely has an amazing cheesy flavor.
I think that frittata with the asparagi is one of the best frittata that actually you can have.
Yeah, I love frittatas, but I wasn't expecting this one to be so far up there. It's really, really good.
È buonissimo.
Yeah, I'm glad there's more because mine's gone. It's gone.
So can you imagine one of the traditional way in which in Italy we eat the frittata is putting the frittata in a panino.
In a sandwich?
Yes, pane frittata.
I want to go to there.
Now, can you imagine this frittata in a panino?
I have one little issue with this though, Ava. You know how I said that like 90% of the results I saw were just olive oil, salt and pepper, asparagus, and then that other 10% was pretty much cheesy asparagus dishes? Well, I did see one asparagus omelette frittata type thing. Oh, I know what you're doing. Well, you got me here. I never would have even thought of an asparagus risotto, and I did not see any asparagus risotti in my searches for a recipe, so.
Actually, this is one of the traditional risotti from Italy because usually risotto with asparagus is a spring risotto.
Huh.
I think that every Italian had at least once in his or her life risotto with asparagus.
So that must mean it's disgusting.
Buon appetito,
Buon
Harper.
appetito. Oh yeah, I can see why everyone eats that in Italy.
It's a very delicate risotto.
It really is. I think of asparagus as having such a strong taste, but yeah, it's a very understated, subtle flavor in this. It's really good.
It has an elegant flavor.
Yeah.
It's a dish that you can eat, for example, on a date night. Okay, for us, it's like on a date, you go and eat a risotto with asparagus.
This is date food. That is definitely a risotto to try.
It's a classic Italian risotto.
I wonder why. Guys, let us know in the comments below if any of these recipes are new to you. If they are, or even if they aren't, tag us on Instagram or Facebook if you try them at Pasta Grammar. We'd love to see what you come up with. Speaking of which, it's time to highlight a Pasta Grammarian in action who made a delicious looking plate of gnocchi with tomato sauce.
They look amazing, Harper.
If you want to become a Pasta Grammarian, just hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Ciao. Which of these dishes is your personal favorite?
Frittata.
Really?
I love the frittata. And Harper, what's your favorite one?
It's really hard to say because right now with this in front of me, it's this. But if you put the frittata back in front of me, I might say the frittata. And if you put the alla Parmigiana in front of me, I might say the alla Parmigiana. They're all really good.